just Allah's way to make our spirits strong.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're still watching Inspirations. And before we just carry on with these events of the Seerah, I will invite you to write to us on our email address, inspirations@huda.tv. Again, the email address is inspirations@huda.tv. So you are invited to write to us, share your views and your comments on the show and the content of the show. May Allah reward you for your help and your support. We were talking just about something very important, that when the companions got hold of that slave from the people of Quraysh who was getting some water supplies for the army of Quraysh, when the Muslims got hold of him, they asked him about the caravan of Abu Sufyan. He said, I don't know anything about it. He said, I only know of the army of Quraysh, that they have come to fight you. So they would beat him because they wanted to hear something else. So it's emotion. It's emotion. But the Prophet ﷺ taught them the lesson that you have to collect information. You have to be unbiased. You have to be neutral. Don't be influenced. Don't be preconditioned. Approach the data that you collect with a neutral kind of attitude. And then you analyze this data, and the data, inshallah, will lead you to the truth if you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the scientific way of dealing with things in all matters of life. But as I said, the majority of the Muslims today are unfortunately emotional. So they sit at home, they watch the news, and be careful, the news agencies, when they give you news, they only give you certain news. Why? Because they knew if they control the information, if they control the input that goes into your mind, they somehow control the output. There were so many Muslims, by the way, persecuted in different parts of the world. And I'm not talking about parts, non-Muslim parts of the world. I'm talking about countries that claim to be Islamic countries or Islamic republics. Why don't the news agencies talk about the Palestinians who are suffering in Iraq, who have been killed in a very vicious and despicable way? Why don't those, news channels, the most famous news channels, why don't they talk about the Muslims who were upon the Sunnah, the Imams who were killed in South Lebanon, the mosques that have been confiscated and turned into something else? Why don't they say anything about this? Because if they say something about this, they will lose the relations that they have with certain parties and certain denominations. Why don't they talk about certain parts in Asia where the Muslims who are upon the Sunnah are persecuted? The masajid are demolished. The schools for Quran are demolished and destroyed, and they are not allowed to build a masjid, although the country claims to be an Islamic country. Why don't they talk about the Muslims in Al-Ahwaz from an Arab origin, that where every week there are a few of the young people hanged in the streets, almost every week? Their scholars are being killed. The Palestinians in Iraq, they are killed, and some of the Iraqis as well are killed in a despicable way after being tortured. They drill their bodies with drills. They drill their joints, their knees and their elbows with drills when they are alive, still alive. Then they drill their chests with drills, and then they take their eyes out of their and then they put on them chemicals, burning chemicals, and then they watch them until they die slowly. Why don't the news channels tell us about such news? Because they have certain agenda. It's our role not to be so submissive to people, not to be so meek in the hands of the news agencies. We have to find the truth for ourselves. Otherwise we will find ourselves in a situation where the coming generations will curse us, and we will be responsible for dilemmas, for massacres where the people of Islam will be killed, the true people of Islam will be killed. I'm saying this out of an extensive study. I'm saying this after suffering so much pain, seeing the Muslim brothers and the sisters supporting enemies of Islam who pretend to be Muslims. And they think that they are supporting Islam. And if you tell them, if you warn them against the truth about those people, They will say, oh, it's time for us to be united. It's time for us to be one in the face of the enemies. But you don't realize that those who you think are your friends, they are the allies of your enemies. And they have secret agreements between them, and that you are their sole enemy. But we don't realize this. People don't want to see the truth. They've seen so many things that are enough to open their eyes to the truth, to wake them up, to realize the truth. But because of the emotional approach to the events and to the whole thing, they just blind their eyes themselves after they see the truth. So we say, wake up. We are in a very critical situation today. The real Muslims today are going through a very critical point. And we have a historical responsibility for the coming and the later generations, that we have to rise up to the level, we have to be real Muslims, and we have to put our lives for the sake of Islam. We have to spread the da'wah, and before that we have to act on Islam ourselves. We have to implement everything we know about Islam. We have to seek more knowledge of Islam and implement it. And we have to do our best to implement Islam and spread the da'wah. And then we will get the strength from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if we really worship Him just as the companions did. That's our responsibility. Whereas those who just keep sitting at home watching TV news and think they are doing something great, one day you find them up, one day down. These news agencies play with them. It's like a video game. And then they think they have a sense of achievement. Well, they have done nothing. You're just sitting at home. You haven't done anything. What have you done for Islam? What have you done for your ummah? Nothing. Literally nothing. It's just a pseudo kind of achievement. It's a fake feeling of achievement. It's nothing. You're just sitting down. And you're saying, the Muslims in this and that country, they're so stupid and so this. What did you do? Don't wait for the victory to come from so-and-so, even if they claim that they are championing Islam. Why don't you do something for Islam? Do you think they are real heroes and you are not? Are they men and you are not? Are they Muslims and you are not? Actually, it's the other way around. You are Muslim, but these people that you think are Muslims, they are not. Their leaders are not. So we have to wake up. We have to do something for Islam. And we have to put our trust in Allah. This is what the Prophet ﷺ and his companions did. They never sat at home and waited for someone to champion Islam. If you don't do it yourself, maybe your children or your grandchildren will pay the price. So unless we stand up for the challenges we're facing, we will pay a very expensive price for that. A very big price for what will be happening. Now the Prophet ﷺ gave the companions this important lesson. Don't depend on emotion. You have to think of things in a reasonable way. Understand things as they are. He was praying, and after he finished the prayer, he said, when the guy told you the truth, you beat him up. You weren't happy with that. And then when he said, you beat him, and when he says, I will tell you a lie, you're happy with that. He said, he told you the truth. He told you the truth. So the Prophet ﷺ asked this guy, how many are the mushrikeen, are the army of the mushrikeen? How many soldiers do they have? He said, I have no idea, I don't know. The Prophet ﷺ tried hard with him, trying to find out their number. He couldn't find out, but the Messenger ﷺ was very intelligent. And this is something we have to learn as well. He asked him, okay, how many camels do they slaughter every day for their food? He said, they slaughter 10 camels. The Prophet ﷺ said, this army is about 1,000 people. Because one camel is enough, in average is enough for 100 people. And